Max is a movie made with caps locks on.
You will not be able to stop talking like this after seeing Mad Max Fury Road.
Here's the thing about Mad Max Fury Road. The first thing you see is Max looking like a member of Mastodon, eating a two-headed lizard and talking desolate shit about the future while looking out at a sandscape full of nothing but hate and maybe like one or two other two-headed lizards. Sure, there are voiceovers and little snippets of radio telling you that everything blew up and some mandatory old stock footage of trees getting blasted by a nuclear shockwave, because that's gotta be here, because here's trick one. You're watching a Mad Max movie, and like everything else in the 1980s, that's got to start with the clear message that you and everyone you loved will be incinerated in a ball of nuclear hellfire.
Or you can't hear the kids in the background, can you?
A little bit.
Ever so faintly, but I don't think it matters.
Should I do the old man thing and I open up the window and be like, get off my lawn? Because those are my kids. Hold on, I'll be right back. Let me go yell it. Stop yelling while I'm recording a podcast!
They weren't kidding. Holy shit.
Welcome to the Hyperfixation, where my friends come onto our show and tell us about things that excite them for 30 to 45 minutes or more, because the timer is a lie. My name is Roma. I use the they and them pronouns, and today I am joined by Vera.
Hi, I'm Vera. I use she, her pronouns.
Hell yeah. And also co-hosting with me today is JAKEY.
That's me. I use the them, I use the him. And I'm sitting in the backseat this time.
I get to drive the car. I'm an uninsured podcast driver. I have a license, though. A license to talk a lot into a microphone.
The only one you need.
The only one I need. There's no podcast cops, is there? Is that...
We'll investigate.
Anyway.
Where we're going, you're not going to need insurance.
Hell yeah.
In fact, it's probably better
yeah.
you don't have it on these roads.
I just need that hell yeah eagle sound TikTok noise like inserted there. So Vera.
Yep.
We've made it happen. It is time. We are here to discuss your hyperfixation.
Oh hell yeah.
Zach.
Oh
hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
And what is this hyperfixation?
This hyperfixation is 2015 cinematic masterpiece Mad Max Fury Road.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I am so hyped. I've seen the movie like once. I think back in like 2015, but it has a really like special place in my heart as like the badass movie. But that's kind of where it's sort of sat because I didn't think about it hard enough, and I'm excited to now in 2023 think about it harder.
Yeah, this is great because I thought about it, I think perhaps too hard. I watched it in theaters in 2015. Immediately fell in love with it and tried to make as many excuses to go and watch it more times with different friends just to make more people see it. I think before it left cinemas here, I saw it like 5 times. And then 2017 rolled around. I was doing uni. I did my honors thesis on philosophy and decided that I was going to talk about Mad Max Fury Road and a whole bunch of dead people and what they thought about things. And so I watched the movie, I think like 20 times over the course of 2017 just for like close study and reading of it.
You are so powerful.
Truly, I am unstoppable.
You are so goddamn powerful. I can't. That's amazing. So you went to school for philosophy?
Yeah. I did did an arts degree with philosophy as my major, and then I went and did an honors year where I wrote my own little contribution to the field and talked about philosophies of hope and like this uh, mid 20th century Jewish political thought around like messianic hope and Marxism and how that kind of hope is shown in post-apocalyptic movies, specifically cinematic masterpiece Mad Max Fury Road.
That is incredible.
That is so cool.
You know, it's doing this podcast for like almost 30 to almost 40 episodes by now. I always just kind of baseline expect the hyperfixation just to be something that a person's just excited about. Like, this is just the thing that tickles my brain worms the best. But like when it gets to that sort of like high collegiate level of like intense, deeper thinking, it's like, oh my, I did not anticipate this. And so I'm very excited to like really get into the nitty gritty of everything. This is going to be sick.
It got to the point where if I weren't so crippled by ADHD, I was potentially going to be doing a PhD just expanding and talking about not just Fury Road, but the whole kind of genre. But like, still, Fury Road would probably be a central part of it, and part of it would have been trying to get that article published. So yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I got the brand from the movie tattooed on my back. I have far too much of this movie in my life.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is incredible. Oh my goodness. So the movie came out in 2015. Were you into Mad Max movies prior to Fury Road coming out?
If I'm completely honest, I haven't seen any of the other movies. I saw the first one. It was like dodgy TV recording of it, like the DVR kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. I do like the movie. The sound editing was kind of dodgy because like, and this is a fun fact that we can start with. So the director George Miller I think it was, I'm gonna just double check this, but he's got like medical background from uni. Like he did roadside medical, like I'm just gonna track this down so that I'm not just talking out of my ass. But he's got a medical, like he's a former medical doctor. And so a lot of the knowledge that he has in these, all the accidents and the brutality that you see in these films come from a place of somebody who actually like studied, he studied medicine in New South Wales. And Mad Max, the first one, I'm pretty sure he funded that by doing, medical work. Like he just, let me just track this down. I'm gonna actually put my like facts where my mouth. No, hang on. Oh yeah, he did like emergency room work to partially, fund the film. So there's this
so
really
cool
place where, it is kind of a budget Australian pulp film, and it shows in some of the, areas like the sound quality being all over the place. Like you can sometimes barely hear the dialogue over the background noise. So the movies, I have a lot of love for them, for movies that I've never really seen. But Fury Road I saw with no context of the other movies, no understanding of anything other than Mel Gibson's in them, and that makes it a little bit hard to want to go back and watch.
Fair.
But yeah, no, it's just Fury Road all day, every day.
Hell yeah! I feel like you answered most of the questions I would have asked, like where this hyperfixation started, where it took you. Was your bird? Jakey? I need help. My brain fried. Did your brain fry too?
No.
Oh no.
But if your brain's fried and my brain's fried, who's driving the war rig?
No, I'm strapped up front.
Okay.
We took you out of the back seat. We strapped you to the hood.
Yeah, I'm the hood ornament.
Oh my goodness.
We strapped him to the hood and just sprayed their mouth chrome.
Yeah.
We're just gonna see what happens from here.
This is probably gonna be the thumbnail.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god. specifically because that one guy is in the movie who sprays his mouth chrome and starts screaming, and that resonates with me. That stays in my mind for some reason.
Oh, the Witness Me thing is a whole fantastic bit.
Absolutely. Honestly, I feel like we've covered a really good like basis. And I feel like it's a good time to just bring in the timer and just let you go hard on the paint. Does that sound like a good plan?
There's a timer? Oh no. Okay.
Oh, it's
Walk me through
honestly.
this.
So let me.
It's more of a metaphorical timer.
Okay, cool.
Because when I pitched the podcast, I was like, well, most people probably want like a digestible size, like a 45 minute to an hour podcast. So I made it to where you can info dump for 30 to 45 minutes. And then it was a combination of, I didn't want to tell people to stop being excited. Like, hey, like your time's up. But most people just like, oh, hey, how's my time? And I'm like, oh, you're good. And then next thing you know, 3 hours has gone by. And so I went from I'm Moonshot's biggest liar because I can't keep my podcast within 30 to 45 minutes to now it's just the funny thing that I keep on the podcast just as a fun joke.
Okay.
A funny little haha, but you don't actually have to listen to it. You don't have to obey the timer.
We'll get to the point where I'll ask you how over the timer I am, not how I'm doing for time.
Hell yeah, there we go.
And the timer's in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so I think the funniest thing to start with in terms of just info dumping about this is just a completely tangential thing on the basis of the whole Chrome shtick. I, back in 2015 and 2016, was playing quad ball, at the time known as Quidditch, because fuck turfs, whatever. I was captain of the Newcastle Unis team, and Fury Road was my entire personality, and the team kind of just went on board for that to the point where whenever anyone did anything fantastic on pitch, everyone on the sidelines would just be bellowing witness. We had somebody show up with a silver food spray, so it wasn't chrome because we had to make it safe. But whenever anyone did some glorious shit and then they ran off to sub off, somebody in the sub box would spray their mouth silver, and it was
that is so
stuff.
Cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. The info dump though, I think one of my favorite things about Fury Road that kind of just ties this whole thing together is the way that there's so much detail in this movie and everything is so clearly thought about, but at the same time it's overwhelming in a way that you can completely follow. Like everything is shot in the center of the frame. You don't have to dart to any corners of the frame to see what's going on. Whatever you need to pay attention to is right in the middle. And that means that they can just squeeze so much stuff in because they don't have to worry about audiences missing things because it's all center frame. You know where you need to be looking. You know what you're seeing. Anything else that you notice is just an extra detail. When I rewatched it last night, I noticed things that, in probably close to 30 viewings of this movie, I still hadn't noticed. And it's at the start of the movie where we see Max looking like this feral animal about to eat a two-headed lizard. They've foreshadowed his whole character arc just in the scraps that he has tied onto him. Like he's got on his left shoulder, the same way that he does towards the end of the movie, this, I don't know what it, like the medical tubing that you'd use for blood transfusions. He's got that tied, attached to his shoulder, even though he's alone. He's still got the stuff for this medical equipment. And then the themes of the movie to tie into this are all, it's subtle but extremely obvious at the same time. Like it's very obviously a movie about reclaiming your body and about autonomy and about, freedom and escape from patriarchy and control and power and hierarchy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's done really subtly. They don't tell you it's about this. They give you little things where, For example, like there's the obvious arcs with Furiosa and the wives, but then Max, his entire character arc is incredible because he's the protagonist in a Mad Max film filled with cars and explosions and guns. You're expecting this action hero, but his whole character arc is completely like opposite. He starts the movie, captured by Immortan Joe and his war boys and reduced to nothing but parts and scrap. Like his car is scrapped and reclaimed by the war boys into a completely different thing. Like the iconic black Interceptor is this silver kind of menacing little vehicle that shows up here and there. Max is reduced to a blood bag. You see him, they shave him, they tattoo all this information on his back. They just string him up as a universal donor. None of that is on his own terms. He's just a commodity of resources for power to use. And then the movie ends with him, they even take his name, actually, like to add to that. He introduces himself as Max at the start before he's captured. And then you don't hear him give his name throughout the full movie until the very end. When Furiosa, midway through, asks his name, he doesn't give his name. You can kind of see it as the Citadel took his name from him. And then at the end, the blood bag that he was at the start, this body for parts and blood and resources for somebody else to use, to save Furiosa, he performs a blood transfusion himself. He willingly does that. He walks one of the wives through helping him do that. And in reclaiming, his purpose, his blood for himself, he gives his name back. He tells Furiosa, "My name is Max." And it's so cool. It's just, he has this moment earlier in the film where he goes and hunts the bullet farmer, and that happens off screen. That would normally be a culmination of his character arc, this climactic moment where he goes off and hunts down this villain and takes him down on his own. And that doesn't matter. That just happens off screen because that's not what his story's about. He's not the hero. He's a protagonist reclaiming his body. And you see the same with Nux, the war boy Nicholas Hoult plays. He starts this movie, using Max as a blood bag, but wanting to die for Immortan Joe because he's been fed this propaganda about a glorious death, and his life and ultimately his death isn't his own. It's a tool for a man in power to use. But at the end of that, at the very end of the movie, he, instead of bellowing "witness me" and dying for Immortan Joe and Immortan Joe's infrastructures of power, he looks at one of the wives, Toast. Capable, not Toast. Toast is Zoe Kravitz. Capable. And he just points at her and whispers, "Witness me," before dying on his own terms to help people that he decided to help. It's this reclamation of the body that's very obvious when we look at Furiosa and the wives as implied survivors of sexual assault, which is fantastically handled as well, because we can see survivors without actually having to see the things that they've survived. But I think it's really cool that we get to see how, men and masculinity are affected by these infrastructures of power as well, and how this whole awful situation that we live in, it doesn't just affect the women. It obviously affects the women. They are the, plot of the movie. Furiosa is arguably the hero where Max is the protagonist, but it's just a really cool little detail that everybody is tied up in this. Everybody is hurt by this. And to actually pivot to talking about the wives in Furiosa, I adore the way that they're handled. It's, portrayed with such respect, which is obvious because they had Eve Ensler, I believe, brought on, she wrote the Vagina Monologues, iconic feminist. She was brought on not as a writer or anything, but as a consultant. So she, essentially made sure that everything was all good. Talked to this, to the actresses who played the wives and Charlize Theron, and kind of talked to them about these situations and gave this kind of added context to really help the performances. And you can see that both in their performances, but also in the way that the film is written. The ways that we see what has happened to them is never direct. We see the start with Max's escape routine where he almost gets branded and then goes on his little rampage to try and break out. That cuts directly to a shot of Furiosa's back with the brand on it. And because of that, like, we don't need to see what happened to her. We know what's happened because we see the same brand that they were trying to put on Max. So we know she's been through that. We can see her head has been shaved the way that they were shaving his head. She has that brand. We know that she's been through horrible abuse, and we don't need to see it. And in the same way, we can see the wives. The first thing that we see, they're not filmed, like, they're attractive women, but they're not filmed to be objects of attraction. The first thing that we see of them is them rinsing off, drinking water, and cutting off the belts that Immortan Joe had put on them. And they are these horrendous belts, and you can see the teeth and the branding on them, and it's very much shown to be an unpleasant thing, and it's implied what's happened, and it's further implied where we get this shot of Angharad walking to Max with water. And the film doesn't linger on, well, it lingers on her body, but it lingers on her body to focus on a very pregnant belly and the implications of how that came to be. And it's just this incredibly sensitive and respectful way to portray these horrible things and tell a story about surviving these horrible things without moving to, dwell on these things for shock and titillation and any of that. It's kind of ruined a lot of movies for me in the way that you see horrible things happen to women, and it's like, I know that you're going for something with this, but I've seen Fury Road far too many times. I know you could have done that without doing this. You didn't need to film this.
Absolutely.
I agree. There's I was actually having a very similar conversation with my partner Tony about this. This was actually the other topic you were potentially going to talk about. This is in regards to Berserk, and where, as we know, Berserk's a very intense, trauma-filled experience for our boy Guts. A lot of terrible things has happened to him and to a lot of the characters in the story. And at one point, I think I was just partway through the first volume. I can't remember for sure, but it was in Guts' backstory when he was a little boy. And I had to stop reading. And I looked at Tony and I was like, I can't. I know what they're about. I know what's about to happen. I can't continue to read this. I want to finish Berserk. I think it's a good story, but it was just I just can't. I can't. And I was like, why did this author do this? Like, there's in my head, like, I know nothing about the author's backstory. I know nothing about why he would have put those horrible things into the book, because I understand that, again, Guts has gone through hell and back and done that a million times. Like, he's been through his share of stuff. Why do they have to display that? And apparently there was an interview. If I'm just going off of the conversation, I didn't actually look up the interview, but apparently the mangaka perceived that sort of violence as the most evil thing somebody could do to you. And so that's why he touched on it so much in his content, was to show that this is the god awful worst thing you could ever do to somebody, and that's why it's so impactful. But he later on was like, yeah, I pulled back on that because it was too much, and I didn't really consider that. That's not word for word, but that's the energy that I got. Yeah, no,
I think I've seen the same thing though.
So
you can't bring up my other hyperfixations.
I'm so sorry.
I'm trying not to talk about Berserk now.
No. But I appreciate that Fury Road is able to display the same amount of trauma and damage and history in such small, quick moments that we can identify something bad's happened there, and without like you said, linger on it for too long, or spending unnecessary time, or even borderline accidentally glorifying it. And that I appreciate so much.
Yeah.
And It bleeds into more too. There's this parts later on in the movie with the Vuvellini, the old warrior women. Anytime something like any violence happens to them, it takes up less frames. Like it's filmed quicker and edited to be snappier than anything that happens to any of the men. So the Keeper of Seeds, who talks to the Dag about how she's killed everyone, and then shows her the bag that she's kept with all the seeds that she tries to plant and see if anything happens. When she gets hit with a chainsaw by one of the polecats, it's a very quick shot thing. It's incredibly snappy. It's a not quite a blink and you miss it thing, but it's not an explosion of gore. Even though she got a chainsaw to the neck, it's a quick shot of something bad happening and then moving on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this really respectful and smart way of handling it all, which it's just such a smart movie and all of that.
I appreciate that so much.
Absolutely.
Even like as a Chainsaw Man enjoyer, like the wild amounts of action and gore can be sometimes cool in a fictional setting, but for Fury Road, like I feel like that's a very appropriate way to go about it, especially because in times like that, like in the apocalypse times, you're constantly surrounded by death. So I don't think it's going to be nearly as shocking and something that even the bystanders would linger on for too long. You know what I mean?
I do think it's important to, the movie is very smart, but it's also so fucking cool. It is just a cool movie.
Seriously.
Like there's, it's filmed so bright. All the color just pops everywhere. You've got this wasteland of horror, and it's not muted grays. It's bright yellow sands, clear blue sky, roaring red flames and explosions. Like it's colorful. It pops. It's got a guy strapped to a moving set of amps with a bunch of drummers on the back of it, playing a guitar flamethrower. Like the Duff Wagon is the coolest fucking thing ever.
Seriously,
it's called the Duff Wagon, and the guitarist is called the Duff Warrior.
Oh my god,
it's amazing.
And then
I'm looking at a picture. That's great.
The scene in the bog where the bullet farmer gets his eyes shot out and just goes completely insane, and so it starts playing like Dies Irae while he screams about being the conductor of the scales of justice, and just starts spraying all of this like machine gun fire into them with no sense of safety or like responsibility. It's just cool. Like, it's a really smart, clever film with themes that I adore and have written thousands of words on, but I think almost more importantly, it is just the coolest piece of cinema.
I agree.
It really is.
I'm just dropping photos into the Discord for reference material. Don't mind me.
I'm just staring lovingly at the Duff Warrior.
What a man. Oh my goodness.
And like all of the action is, to bring it back to being smart, all of the action is also, while cool, incredibly smart as well. Everything has this cause and effect. There's nothing that just kind of happens and isn't considered and moved on from. Max getting picked up by one of the polecats and then almost killed, winds up on another vehicle, and it just keeps moving this flow. Like every single moving part of this 2-hour car chase of a film is thought about. They know they're not doing anything for the sake of doing it. Something happens, it has a direct cause, an effect. That effect is in turn a cause for another effect, which is in turn cause for 2 other effects. It just, everything is this incredibly considered jigsaw of bullshit, incredible action. And the editing makes that possible. The stunt work, because it's not one of those CGI things where everything happens on a green screen, nobody interacts with the people. It's my turn to drop a resource in, not in full, but just, I don't know if this is the footage or not for it. Oh, well, okay, never mind. I'm not going to drop it in. Just look up behind the scenes footage for Fury Road, because all of the stunts are incredible. The explosions are real. They just edit more of the cars in afterwards. The opening where we see the Interceptor, the icon from the films before it, get wrecked is a real crash. They set it up so that the Interceptor just full on rolls out. They just absolutely annihilate the thing. And they did it live. Like they did it. They didn't. They edited things afterwards. They made it flashier. They mixed in the other cars, but they, for real, straight up, just annihilated a car for this film. And then they did it again and again and again, and they built all of them too. Like the War Rig is a real vehicle that went up for auction a couple of years ago, and everyone kept being like, "Hey Vera, do you want it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, buy me the War Rig, please."
Gimme now.
Yes, I do want it. Thank you.
Immortan Joe's, I think it's like a Giga Horse, I think they called it. They took a bunch of like old hot rod looking cars and old sports cars, and they just cut them up and turned them into this monster truck. And it's all real vehicles. It's all real stunt work. And that's, I think, part of why it works is because you can have all of these parts interacting with each other in a way that you can't necessarily do with overly CGI'd things where nobody can really interact with the set because the set doesn't exist. They went out to Namibia and they crashed cars for a few months. And it really paid off.
That's a hell of a gig.
Yeah, can you imagine? God. I mean, all of the cast too are just phenomenal. When I was watching it again last night, I noticed it every time, how much Tom Hardy does with so few lines and a mask for half the movie. Like he has, maybe a page of dialogue in a 2-hour movie, and that's if we count all of the grunting.
Right.
There's the part where after he fights Furiosa and he, steals the War Rig to try and escape on his own, and it doesn't work, and Furiosa's trying to haggle and get the others in, and she's, saying you're relying on the generosity of a very bad man, trying to appeal to his, morality as well. And you can see in Tom Hardy's like face as he's acting this behind this muzzle that they've put in on him, that Max as a character just is incapable of wanting, incapable of not helping. Like he has to help. I think the full tradition of Mad Max from, the Road Warrior through to the Thunderdome, through to Fury Road, is just this guy trying to survive this horrible place and just being incapable of not getting involved. Like he can't not get involved and help people out. And he doesn't say that. He doesn't tell you that he wants to help out and wants to be a good person because he's too fucked up to want to try again. But you can see in this like agonized expression as Tom Hardy, as Max refuses to look at the wives, that he knows he's doing something awful and it goes against every fiber of his being. And you can just see him desperate to try and help. And it's, all done with no dialogue. Like there's no point where he says that he wants to help and wants to be a good person, but he can't because he's, just fucked everything up for years and years and years and is now a, husk of a man. But it doesn't need to be said because we can see it. We can just see his face kind of portray this turmoil of wanting to be a good person. And God, I just love this movie so fucking much.
Absolutely.
Like I love the plot feeds the themes. Like we talked about the reclaiming the body, but there's this broader theme of hope, which was very much the focus of my thesis, of this post-apocalyptic hope where everything is awful and horrible and it has never been as bad as it is now. But that means that we are most equipped to make something better. We are at our absolute low point, and that's this kind of, to steal the terms from the philosophers that I wrote about, it's this messianic time where redemption can enter, but it kind of de-religiousizes it by making it less a, the Messiah can arrive and redeem the world in this absolute low period of time. And it's more things are at their absolute worst. And because of that, we can make something better now. We have the power to take this awful world that is, the ashes of a not quite as awful world, but still terrible world. And now we can build something better of it. Like, you can't run away. There isn't a green place for the wives and Max and Nux to flee to. That's long gone. All that we can do now is take what is in the world, what this horrible thing, and we can tear it down. They don't win by escaping Immortan Joe. They win by killing Immortan Joe and taking over the Citadel to make something better out of it. It's incredibly optimistic, especially given how our real world is going to hell. Like, every day things get worse everywhere, but we don't have to give up on that. Even though things are horrible and everyone's rights are being stripped away, the world is slowly dying. No matter what happens, we can still persevere, and if we stick together and work together and help, we can all make something better. We can fix the world. Well, we can't fix the world. The world is broken irreparably. We can make a better one. I think that's really beautiful.
It was very beautiful. Like, you touched on one of the things that was definitely one of the biggest thoughts that stuck with me after this movie was just, what was the hope? That was, I went in not expecting anything hopeful at all. I was just yeah, it's gonna be cool explosions and cars, and that's really all I got from the trailers. I left being like, what the fuck, man? It's so good.
Yeah. And that's how it gets you, because that's the same.
Yeah.
I went in and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be 2 hours of pulp action. I'm on board for it, but it's not going to leave a lasting mark on me. And I mean, in part it is that. In part it is 2 hours of pulp action. It's a 2-hour-long car chase with somehow the most incredibly resonant theme. But I think it's because of that action that it can do this. It can have such an impact because it, in part doesn't pretend to be anything more than an action movie. And because it isn't pretending to be more than an action movie, it can just hit you with this. It can just bring you along for the ride with this. No, it brings the themes along for the ride. You are strapped in for 2 hours of nonstop action, and the vehicle for that action is hope.
Yeah.
I need to admit something.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've established now that I have autism, correct? in our friendships, so when this movie came out, I obviously did not know that I was autistic, and I did not realize that I struggled with understanding people. And so there's the part of me who, in retrospect, okay, I can see that. I could see where the things that Max does and doesn't say leads the person watching to realize what's happening. But I feel like I'm looking at 2015 Roma, and 2015 Roma probably saw the movie and did not pick up on a lot of the context. So 2015 Roma just thinks that it was just a really fun pulp action movie.
I think in part, though, that is the beauty of it. I was saying, every time I watch it, I pick up something new. I didn't notice that acting the first time or the second time or the third time. That was something that really jumped out to me, along with the blood tube dealie. The last night when I watched, that was something that really jumped out that time. I think it's because so much thought has been put into this movie, and it's filmed in such a concise and snappy way that it gives you the chance to get as much or as little out of it as you want. You can just have it as 2 hours of incredible, insane action, or you can fixate on it for 8 years now and still discover new things because there's just so much in it.
Oh yeah. I dropped the link in the chat or in the Discord. It's from Vogue.com, which is one of the many places I don't think you'd think would talk about Mad Max Fury Road. But it's an interview with the makeup artist for the movie. And her name is Leslie Vanderwalt. She's an Australian hair and makeup designer, and she was charged with bringing Mad Max Fury Road's desert wasteland to life. And as I'm a nerd about like effects makeup and like the behind the scenes stuff, I know this is a jump and I super apologize.
No, go ahead.
But it's really neat as you like go through the article. Obviously, like the article's more so specifically talking about Furiosa and the wives and not so much the rest of the cast of the movie. But it is interesting of the direction they decided to go with their like hair and makeup, because obviously they're out in the middle of nowhere. There is not a secret Sephora underground that they have access to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so apparently they were literally using dust and like dirt smudge, which is very obvious in the movie, but like they had to tactfully, because you know it's very obvious if you were to intentionally try to like do their, what's the word I'm looking for, where you like carve out your chin and your cheekbones and stuff, the
contouring.
Yeah, like you can tell if they're trying to intentionally contour, but the way that they went about it like simultaneously makes the actors' eyes pop, does a little bit of their contouring, but before they even did any of the dirt and dust treatment, they would just cake these bitches in fucking glow like highlighter, like different colors of like peach, pink, orange, brown, like highlighter, like shiny makeup. So they had that still that very like that glow, but then just like covered it in dirt and dust, and then like put dry shampoo and dust in their hair. But I just thought it was like kind of neat to see the direction they went for that, to make it, you know, to make them still seem very movie like pretty, but also recognizing it's a post-apocalypse movie.
Yeah, because I mean
very cool.
That's kind of it's such an interesting balancing act, because they are, you know, the wives, they are the trophies of this horrible warlord. So they, you know, there is kind of this expectation that, you know, they do kind of have to be, even in the post-apocalypse, just beautiful. But then that's tempered with the understanding that, you know, this is a post-apocalypse. There's not going to be like as the underground Sephora.
Yeah, and then with Furiosa's makeup that she's got from her eyes up to her forehead.
Oh, the grease paint.
Yeah, the grease paint. They put like a copper highlighter in the middle, but basically they're like, when they first did the look, I guess the actress was like, oh yeah, that Furiosa would definitely reapply this as war paint all the time, and just like kept it, at least according to the article, if I read it correctly. But I love to see it. I love how they made it look so natural, for lack of better words, for the scenario.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my tangent.
It's a good tangent. It's so much of this movie is like, it's so well considered, like all of the costuming as well. Oh no. Can I say something stupid and funny?
I love stupid and funny.
Absolutely.
So, 2016, before I knew I was Vera, when I thought I was a bi man and not a queer woman, I went to one of my university's orientation week parties. Every year we'd have O Week, and we'd end it with an O Week party. The theme for that year was going places, and so I was like obsessed with Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going as Max or a war boy or something like that, this bi man, with man in heavy quotes, grabbed bed sheets and went as one of the wives.
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
I got like the some goggles from a friend too, so I weren't as capable, and just had the the bed sheet cut up and turned into like a bikini, a skirt, and then a shawl.
That's so perfect.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I
How
love
could we have
to
ever
hear
known?
it. Egg moments.
We love egg moments.
Oh yeah. I mean, I I'm having one of those like cinematic flashbacks where you have the distant gaze and just like images flashing before your face of like all the times that I dressed in drag, and it just looked really not like drag, you know. It was definitely just a dude.
Yeah, it wasn't drag, it was comfortable.
Yep. My mom helped me pick out beard hair that matched my real hair color, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, so proud."
I have to do a deep dive now. I want to see if I can find this. Come on, please exist.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
excited.
Oh dear. It's so bad, but it's so funny. There's no way this is the same person.
Aww.
Oh, I had those
Behold.
goggles.
An egg.
An egg. It finally hatched.
Yeah. Very cis behavior on display there.
Oh, absolutely.
Keep going. I'm looking for my pictures. They're just really far back. It's been a hot minute.
Just trying to think of what else to like dive into other than without having to like reread my thesis, because I wrote that in 2017 and I do not remember half of the philosophy like in detail. I remember the main bit is Walter Benjamin, who is was this incredible thinker in early to mid 20th century Germany. So I don't know. Do you guys know the whole current like neo-Nazi fixation on cultural Marxism? That whole idea of, whenever they throw out those dog whistles about, oh, the cultural Marxists are ruining everything. They're taking over the world and making us think these things. There's this historical group of Marxist philosophers, predominantly Jewish, in the 1920s to 30s, called the Frankfurt School.
Mhm.
And that's kind of this. There's not really a historic basis for cultural Marxism, but this is kind of as close as it gets to that.
Huh.
And it's a lot of really incredible thinkers, Walter Benjamin among them being my favorite. He's this Jewish philosopher who wrote a lot of Marxist literature on things like reconciling Jewish theology around the end of the world and the Messiah, and Marxist historical materialism. So this idea of history not as a linear series of cause and effect, but as this cascading maelstrom that it's a mountain of wreckage that is bearing down on you from the past, and you can't look away from it. That's how he describes history. But he also wrote a lot about film. So for my honors thesis, I'd had to do a bit to justify the use of film as something that could do philosophy, because I was writing about Mad Max, 2-hour pulp action film. There was a bit of work that I had to do and be like, how is this doing anything about philosophy? Like, how can a 2-hour pulp action film do philosophy? And so Walter Benjamin both kind of helped me justify the thesis of the piece, like this talk about hope, and also helped justify how films do philosophy. There's this really interesting analogy that he does where he talks about painting versus film in the same way that you would look at a magician and a surgeon. So the painter works on a surface level in the same way that a magician might heal somebody on a surface level. They lay hands on somebody, they treat at the top level. It's very external. There's not really any depth to it. like there's obviously depth to painting. Like it's that, not to be dismissive of painting, but it's very much a kind of surface in the terms of, not in terms of like a lack of depth and nuance, but in terms of how it is engaged with. Like you engage with art at the surface when you make art.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison, he talks about the film and editing a film as a surgeon's work, where the surgeon cuts into the body in the same way that an editor would cut into these rolls of film and kind of make something more out of that. And it was this really interesting kind of way to talk about film. Like, the editing as a surgeon was this really interesting thing that stuck with me, even though I can't remember for the life of me how the rest of that article went. For reference, that was Walter Benjamin's The Work of Art in the Age of Its Mechanical Reproduction, which is, from memory, again, it's been 6 years since I've read it, but it's an incredible piece.
Oh, yeah.
It all tracks. It honestly all tracks. Like, I mean, I'm not a movie director or editor, but the sentiments of it, like from the video editing I've done or some of the longer video form content that I've done, it resonates correctly. Makes sense. It tracks.
I think it really works, especially for Fury Road, with that cause of effect of action. Like you can't just kind of replicate that without really cutting into the film and really getting yourself into the like internal organs of how this movie worked. Like you can't have somebody get hit with a chainsaw and have it not be an over-the-top act of gore, but have it be a quick flash of violence done with respect, without really cutting deep into it. You can't have. There's this really cool moment two moments, I guess, because it's the same moment happening at two parts of the film, where Max is watching everyone leave. Like they've all got their bikes and they are going out into the salt flats, which is kind of implied to be the ocean. Like they have 180 days of supplies. They're just going to ride out into the salt and see what they can find. Like that's how they escape. And one of the ghosts that is haunting him this whole film, this little girl that he couldn't save, walks up to him, casts out her hand at him, and you see in this brief instance, as he raises his hand to his forehead to like guard himself, you see a war boy, just for a frame, like I think it's a single frame, pointing a crossbow at him. And then about half an hour later, in the climactic final chase sequence, Max is walking towards the front of the car, having just dealt with the claw trucks that were slowing down the war rig, and that same war boy pops out from underneath part of the war rig and shoots that crossbow at him. And at the same time that he does that, you see the girl again casting her hand out at him, and he raises his hand to his forehead again, as he did to defend himself in the past time. And this time he catches a crossbow bolt in his hand and, doesn't get shot in the fucking head. And it's just, it doesn't really add anything in terms of thematic value, but it's just so fucking cool to just have that little, like, I missed that the first few times I watched it. And then the moment I noticed it, I was incapable of not being like, okay, you've got to watch this because it's so cool when it happens. Like, it's just such a cool little detail.
That's so sick.
Oh, it's great. One of the most dangerous things I think is I've started accidentally oh my god. Sorry, I have to.
I didn't want to be distracting, but I'm holding a whole pile in my hands.
Oh my god.
Man.
Incredible. Oh, incredible
that Dance
scenes.
Gavin Dance shirt, LMAO.
Oh, the snapback too.
Yep.
I need you to recreate this look, but do the like soy pointing behind you.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The what?
The reference, like where it's like the two dudes pointing back at something, If it loads. There we go.
Yeah, I got you. I can do that.
I need you to recreate that look and do that.
But the
Desperately.
background is me pointing at my old photo. Yeah, I got you, fam.
Yeah. Anyway, what was I gonna? Oh, I think the dumbest thing that's happened to me because of this movie has been the irreparable damage to my ability to drive safely that the soundtrack has inflicted.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
It's, for starters, I was driving. I went to a house party right after I watched it the first time, and the 20 minutes that it took me to get there was a struggle to drive the speed limit. So I just had so much adrenaline in my system that I was like, oh no, I have to drive responsibly. How do I drive responsibly? How do I not die historic on a mundane Newcastle road? And then
Your best.
somebody had the bright idea of, because at the time I didn't have my iPod or mobile phone set up to play music in the car because I didn't have like Bluetooth or an aux cord. I just had a CD player. Somebody bought me the Fury Road soundtrack, and that lived in my car. That was a very dangerous thing to have in the car because the track that plays in, well, there's so many good tracks, but the track that plays in the final kind of act is called Chapter Duff. And it is the most impossible to drive responsibly to song in existence. Like, you cannot drive with that song playing and not accidentally accelerate just a little bit too much.
My mom had a song that did that to her. And if she ever got pulled over, she's like, sorry, this song was playing, and like turn up the volume in her car. And the cop would be like, yeah, don't do that again.
It's like, I get it though.
Sorry,
I get it.
Sorry, officer. Chapter Duff was playing. Gotcha.
Got it. Roger that. Carry on.
Also, speaking of the soundtrack, there's this, I don't know shit about music, but I think it's like leitmotifs or something. Is that the term?
I don't know.
You know, like the little, like the bit of like music that kind of represents a character.
Oh yeah.
There's one that plays a couple times throughout it for Nux that really adds to his whole character arc. Like, it plays, two big major instances where it plays is in the massive sandstorm right before he decides that he's going to fill the passenger and driver's seat of his car with fuel and drop a flare in it to like blow himself up and stop Furiosa, like, you know, his whole I'm awaited, I need to be witness thing. It plays just before that as he's watching this car get caught into and pulled into this sandstorm tornado, you know, the post-apocalyptic storm of like bright purple lightning, bright red fire, and watching this car get torn apart. And this part of this song plays as he's just watching it with awe. And then right at the end, it plays again as he realizes that he, you know, what he has to do in terms to save like everybody that he wants to save now. Like, as he decides that he's going to kill himself to stop Rictus, Immortan Joe's bulky but stupid son, and stop all the cars behind them and crash the war rig himself, and that he's not going to make it. That motif plays again as he just points at Capable and whispers, "Witness me." And it's just this beautiful use of music because you've had this insane adrenaline-filled track playing, and it just gives way to this dramatic part of music that you've seen before as he essentially like dies on his own terms instead of somebody else's terms, and it adds so much to it.
Oh, I love it when they do shit like that.
The soundtrack is so good. The amount of horrible movies I have watched because Junkie XL has done the soundtrack, it's bad. Well, not necessarily horrible movies. Like, I think I was watching Godzilla vs. Kong actually and I kept getting distracted because the drums in the soundtrack. I'm like, oh, these are Mad Max drums. Hang on a second.
Oop.
Hell yeah.
I didn't hate that movie, but I got way more into that movie because I recognized the soundtrack from Fury Road because of the fucking drums.
Honestly, there was a TV show. I was watching One Piece. One Piece had the instant transmission noise from Dragon Ball Z in it at one point for somebody's attack, and it gave me my neck snapped so hard. I was so confused. That is the closest I can get to that emotion, but
no,
yeah, you just triggered a memory.
Sometimes I get that where something from some other audio will use like the Dark Souls parry sound effect.
Yeah.
And I will just have like a flight or fight response.
Like, well, it's my partner's text tone, the instant transmission as well. So it was the double combo of Dragon Ball Z. Well, Tony's not supposed to be here. What is happening?
Your body just took a screenshot.
It did. It absolutely did. Gosh. Mad Max Fury Road is kind of buck wild, actually.
It's insane. I'm really glad that you let me talk about it because it gave me an excuse to watch it again. And it's been a year. Like, it was hard to watch it in 2018 because I had watched it 20 odd times the year before it. Mm-hmm. But now it's, gone from a movie that I love and am obsessed with to a movie I watched academically to a movie that now I, still love and am obsessed with, but I can just revisit from time to time and just fall in love with it every single time. And it's so good.
I need to go rewatch it now with my adult eyes.
Honestly, Sam,
Absolutely.
That's what I was about to say.
Good. Every time I remember it exists, I assign it as homework to people. Like, look, I'm captain of my quad ball team. I'm allowed to tell them to go and watch the movie because I need them to know how to be dickhead adrenaline junkies on field. It's like, go watch this movie, learn how to inflict violence on people. Because if you do something good, I am going to be screaming witness at you on the sidelines, and I need you to know what I mean.
And that just builds teamwork. It just builds that camaraderie. Mm.
Is it problematic that I use the death cult terminology? No, it's great. I'm too iconic to be problematic.
Iconic, it's fine.
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So, how many more times do you think you're going to watch this movie in your life?
Let's see. Honestly, as many times as I need to make sure that everybody that I know has seen it. It's like I'll watch it. I'll watch it again at my own pleasure, but at the same time, it's absolutely a movie that I now more watch to bless others with than to watch for my own sake. It's like I had a friend visiting from overseas last year, and we made time to make sure that I could show her Fury Road.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
And so it's essentially anytime anyone is going to be visiting me, if they haven't seen this movie, they're going to. It's a threat, a promise, and a warning.
So you go to like one of those websites where you could buy things in bulk, and you just get a bulk purchase of Mad Max Fury Road DVD sets, and then you just wrap that up and mail that to everybody for Christmas. I don't know if you celebrate Christmas. That's fine if you don't. It's just a good time to mail out Mad Max Fury Road to everybody you know.
Just merry occasion. If you don't watch this, I will be in your walls.
Oh my god. This podcast releases, months go by. It's December now. I get a package in the mail. It's from VERA. And I just know.
You're like, I'll watch that in a couple of days. Then you just hear like scratching on your wall. Suspiciously like picture on your wall now has moving eyes. Don't worry about it.
Oh my goodness. The lightning strikes outside and I see flashes of Vera's face in my window.
You go somewhere and I like do the you think you see me. A bus goes past. There's no one there.
But suddenly at your feet there's a copy of Mad Max Fury Road on Blu-ray.
Yes. Fury
They
Road
just keep
somehow
showing.
gives me slapstick / horror movie powers.
They just keep
You get-
showing up.
It gives you tune physics.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Send an article to a medical journal. Mad Max Fury Road gave me cartoon physics.
You know, I feel like that would be a great Twitter trend. You know how it's like a quote retweet with like the year whatever X item. It's a quote retweet. What media gives you tune physics?
Somebody paints a like a tunnel into the side of the wall, and I can drive through it because I've spray painted my face with chrome.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal.
Oh, I'm already daydreaming about the thumbnail for this episode. This is going to be buck wild.
Oh, it's gonna be
I
fun.
cannot wait. It's gonna be rent free in my brain the moment I see it.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for these colors too. I'm just going to color pick from the Mad Max posters. It's going to be good.
God, it's such a good color palette. Like every time I see a movie that just has like gray things and grayscale, everyone like, this is boring.
Right.
Give me bright. Give me like obnoxiously everywhere colors.
It can be cool and pretty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think my taste in movies is just ADHD with like themes. Because like my two favorite movies at the moment, 2015 cinematic masterpiece Mad Max Fury Road and Everything Everywhere All at Once. And
I
there's
haven't
nothing.
seen that.
You should go watch it. I'm not going to start talking about it, but like it's insane that there are just two movies that are so completely different, but at the same time they are both movies with incredible thematic resonance, where so much stupid over the top action happens throughout like the whole runtime. Like just overwhelmingly intense movies into where just so much is happening with phenomenal themes. That's my taste. That's my type. And I'd have 2 nickels for it.
Honestly, good shouts. I do agree. My taste in music is also ADHD. It's whatever the music can like punch me in my entire nervous system, so I stay awake. Just as fast as it possibly can go.
Yeah, I feel that.
My car needs to vibrate. I should not be able to see out of my rearview mirror.
Oh, Rema, what kind of music do you listen to? Loud.
Oh boy. Loud. Fast. Loud.
I listened to.
Yeah. Hold up. Let me pull up my Spotify real quick. I have a playlist literally called Loud.
That's amazing.
So I just describe my music taste as no. I used to be really pretentious and only listen to like 90s and like early 2000s alt rock, like Pearl Jam and Nirvana, Rise Against, that kind of shit. And I was super pretentious about it. And I went to uni and I was like, oh, I could just listen to music that I like.
True. Yeah, right.
And then I just kind of stopped having taste, or like in the sense of like a consistent genre. I'm like, yeah, if the song's good, the song's good. And so now I have my like playlist that is just, it's called Big Gay Driving Playlist.
Hell yeah.
Let's have a look. It's 30 hours and 450 songs. And it is a absolute roulette. Like it'll go from bullshit anime opening to like sad girl guitar and Mitski to like electro swing to Childish Gambino to Daft Punk to Brockhampton to Mad Max Fury Road to Queens of the Stone Age. It's all over the place.
Queens of the Stone Age.
I do not have taste in music anymore, and it's quite possibly one of the better decisions I've made.
It's liberating.
Blah. The playlist is called Blah.
It's called Blah, and it's mostly just loud. There's a lot of loud, and the lower you go, I think it gets from loud to just fast, and then it gets kind of funky. It gets kind of a little funky.
I can
towards the end of it.
Funky.
Yeah, there's
I
Yep.
will bestow
you don't
upon
have
you.
to listen to it. It's not good. My playlist is not good. Don't listen to it. It's just
Similarly,
loud.
I will bestow upon you nonsense.
Big gay driving playlist. Jakey, where's your playlist for the car?
I'm really boring, and I don't make a playlist. I just let Spotify auto-generate one for me.
Oh my
I make
gosh.
too many playlists at this point. I used to have character playlists. Now I've got like vibe checks for different moods that I'm in. It's like I've got just house ambient because I live in my own place now. I've got my own house, so I can just have music playing around the house. So I've got a playlist for like songs that are good, but they're not overwhelming that I'm going to be distracted by. They're just songs that are good to have in the background when guests are over to just, have background noise while chatting. I've got songs that are like good. I've got a vibe check for dance jams. So like if I'm at a party, I want to just dance around and be an idiot. Got a playlist for that. I got I think my favorite one I've called Vibe Check Summer Roads, and it's for that kind of mood where you're like, it's a nice summer afternoon. You're in a car with the windows down with your friends, and you're driving to the beach.
Yeah.
And I just made a playlist that fits that vibe.
And here in Florida, that playlist is just country music for a lot of Floridians, and it really upset me. But then again, it's the vibe. So there's a part of me that's like, I'm not into country music. I'm not into stadium country. But gosh, it is a vibe.
Mine was mostly like, honestly, a lot of 90s music. So it was like, Steal My Sunshine by Len or Semi-Charmed Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just went through like my entire Spotify library. The only time I've ever like made a playlist is just to like organize songs because they're like I want all of a band's music, but they have them all like in like 2 or 3 song EPs, and I just want to play everything. So I'll just put like,
oh my
here's
god,
all of this. I have not actually made an actual playlist before.
I have so many goddamn playlists. I know that we have just gone on the wildest fucking tangent I think this podcast has ever seen. But I will say my playlists, I have playlists for vibes. I have playlists for years and years of running events. So I have like event playlists that are themed. And then I have playlists for my characters in tabletop RPGs.
Oh yeah, we love some character playlists.
And then just a lot of them that kind of with the same energy as blah. There's loud, ooh woo, like they're just energies.
I've just had to put one track in there to just so that we can still be vaguely on topic about music. I've put Chapter Duff in the chat in the
Perfect
channel. God, it's a good track.
The one I just shared is all of the songs that you could get as free downloads if you played the Bionicle ARG.
What?
Yeah. Well, Bionicle
Okay.
did an ARG, and the prize were MP3s that you could download to your computer. So I just went and made a playlist of all of them.
Can we go on the wildest of tangents here and just all agree that the songs that Bionicle used in their trailers fucking slapped?
I haven't seen the Bionicle trailers, but I will agree with you nonetheless.
Bionicle never missed.
Bionicle never missed.
Except for, that time that they lost the All-American Rejects for a little while. But I mean, like, we found them. They did lose them, but we found them, so it's okay.
They lost them?
How do you lose the All American Rejects?
The bad guys kidnapped them.
What?
Yeah, the bad guys kidnapped the All American Rejects.
Is that why Move Along was playing in one of the trailers?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, they had a whole thing where that was part of that ARG that I was talking about that playlist for, and I don't think any of the MP3s on this list are All American Rejects, actually.
Oh, The Living End is on it. We love The Living End. Some iconic Australian music.
Hell yeah.
God, incredible.
We went on one hell of a fucking tangent.
Yeah, we sure did. Whoops.
Do we have any closing thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road?
It's really good. Go watch it. And then watch it again.
Listener goes to take out their earbuds at the end of this episode, and they look to their left. Nothing's there. They look to their right, and there is a small breeze, and they notice a perfectly wrapped package of Mad Max Fury Road on Blu-ray DVD.
It's that fucking Shia LaBeouf song, but it's just me making people watch this movie.
I mean, it's like a good time, honestly.
God, I wish I had anything resembling music talent. I want to make that song so bad.
I agree. Oh, okay, yeah. So everyone's homework tonight. Vera already did their homework, so we all have to watch Mad Max Fury Road. Extra credit, you get in the Discord and you talk about your experience with Mad Max Fury Road. If you do both of those things, you get a gold star.
God, we love gold stars.
Gold star. Is it time to do the outros? Do we feel good? Do we want to touch on anything else?
I think we feel good.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
We feel good. All right. Vera, where can people find you on the internet?
I am Idiot Vera on most things. Twitter, Twitch, Patreon. Hopefully I should be having things for sale on Amazon, but I have no idea what that's going to be put under other than Sideways.
We'll announce it, put a link and stuff when the time comes. We'll retweet it. We'll post it.
Yeah, it'll be around.
You'll know.
Yeah, Idiot Vera is my @ on most social media.
And then, do you still stream on the Twitch?
At the moment, I'm in a fight with Australian internet to be able to, but hopefully.
Hell yeah. We look forward
Twitch,
to it.
Twitter. I'm around. I'm places.
Hell yeah. Eagle noise. Jakey, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at thetwitters.com and most other social medias at Mr. Jakey Poo. You can also catch me over on the Redacted Media YouTube channel talking about the Dark Tower books by Stephen King.
Hell yeah. I tried to do an eagle noise.
I thought that's what happened. It cut out a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Discord decided, no.
Yeah, that's my life. You can find... Wait, is it my turn now?
It's your turn now.
It's my turn
Roma,
now.
where can we find you?
You can find me on the internet at I appreciate your butt at thetwitter.com. That is IAPPRECI, the number 8 URBUTT, where I will not shut the fuck up. Unlike my TikTok, where I don't post on my personal TikTok very much. But you can find this podcast as a whole on the internet. We pre-recorded that outro bit, so I'm just going to insert that here.
Thank you to Offuscate at
OFUSKATE for the intro and outro music. You can find them on Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud. And also, thank you to the Moonshot Network. You can find them at twitch.tv/Moonshot Network, twitter.com/Moonshot Pods, or you can support them on Patreon and all the podcasts in the network at patreon.com/Moonshot Network. Our patrons for this month who get a shout out on the podcast are VERA, Becky Scott Fairley, Ken, and Flo. Thank you so much for y'all's support and keep being awesome. Fuck, I love you guys.
Nope.
But thank you for listening, everyone. Be safe. Don't die. Drink your water. Watch Mad Max Fury Road. And
Witness me.
Hello. Goodbye.
This April, the Moonshot Podcast Network is doing something new, unparalleled, something nobody has done before. We're asking you for money. This month is the first ever Moonshot Patreon drive. Between April 1st and 30th, we're hoping to bring in 30 new and upgrading patrons to patreon.com/Moonshot Network. That's one per day. The money we make on Patreon is what helps our podcasters get things like new mics, show art, and music. It also helps us put on our bigger streaming events, advertise our shows, and think even bigger. If you know us, you know we like to think bigger. Join the Patreon in April and you'll get a bunch of drive-exclusive new podcasts, including actual plays, improv comedy, and a roundtable show with some of the hosts of our book talk shows like Three Little Words and Cahooligans. $5 Patreons get to join us for a game night on our Minecraft server on April 7th, where we take down the Ender Dragon together. You hate that guy, so do we. Help us kill him. You'll also get access to all of our usual monthly output, like Once Missed Wonders, early episodes of Champs in the Making, and more. So please join us or upgrade with us today on Patreon for $1, $3, or $5 at patreon.com/Moonshot Network. Visit us on Patreon or at Moonshot Pods on Twitter for more details about the drive. Patreon.com/Moonshot Network.